Hey everybody, it's Tuesday. Full warning, I have a splitting headache. I'm pre-recording this on the same day I made yesterday's video, just trying to get ahead of the week because War on Stupid Tour hits Toronto, Ottawa, Kingston this weekend. I think it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Check out edthesock.com for dates and tickets. Tilsonburg still hasn't been rescheduled, so just letting you know that Tilsonburg people still hasn't been rescheduled, so don't freak out. Your tickets will be honored. But an article was sent to me by a patron. I'll do the Patreon at the end, but support is appreciated. And they asked me what I thought of it because it was about Andrea Dworkin. And I thought it was a beautiful example of how out of step so-called video game feminism is from mainstream feminism, just because of the way it approached the subject of Andrea Dworkin. People who've watched this channel for a while know that I call the form of feminism that has been adopted by people in video games to be called the dwark side, a joke on the dark side of the force. And it frustrates me no end that people that have only been exposed to that form of feminism, which is essentially only really seen as having any sort of merit among like radicals on certain college campuses that don't have enough life experiences to know better, and the video game industry. And some people got really hopping mad at me when I talked about the gatekeeping that goes on in gaming and why that artificial status is so. And I thought this article was sort of a good way in to explaining more, because I had no idea why anybody got that mad. It was basically, you don't hate Anita Sarkeesian enough. Roar! I think it is a colossal waste of time to hate anybody for their opinions, including Anita Sarkeesian. She has the right to speak. Free speech means sometimes tolerating stuff we don't like. Enough said there. But this was an article in the New York Times that was sent to me, as I said, by a patron. And I want to make it clear, no, I don't subscribe to the idea that we should somehow be renormalizing Dworkin. She was pushed to the sidelines for a freaking reason. That reason is she was crazy and probably made up a lot of the experiences that gave her rage form of feminism so much credence, was the whole lived experience angle. So I want to be clear, I'm not showing this article because I agree with it. I'm showing this article because it shows what feminism has been in the mainstream until Trump derangement syndrome took over. So here we go. It's called Not the Fun Kind of Feminist, How Trump Helped Make Andrea Dworkin Relevant Again. Oy, but it's the first few paragraphs. For decades now, Andrea Dworkin has existed in the feminist imagination mostly as a negative example, the woman no one wanted to be. Everybody in gaming is going, what? We get pummeled with Dworkin all the time. Exactly. This is a mainstream viewpoint. An anti-porn, anti-prostitution militant in the feminist sex wars of the late 1970s and 1980s, she sometimes seemed like a misogynist caricature of a women's rights activist, a puritanical battle axe in overalls out to smite men for their appetites. Dworkin never actually wrote that all sex is rape, a claim often attributed to her, but she did see heterosexual intercourse as almost metaphysically degrading, calling it, in her 1987 book Intercourse, the pure, sterile, formal expression of men's contempt for women. Feminism would spend decades defining itself against her bleak, dogmatic vision. And if you're chuckling to yourself right now, it's because that's pretty much the form of feminism that has come into gaming, right? That all sex that affects women is metaphysically degrading, and that men need to be smited for all their sexual appetites, and that general misogynist caricature of a woman's rights activist. Now, I'm saying this because feminism in gaming, since around 2012, it started to shift this way because of the, again, potent narrative of the Tropes versus Women Kickstarter getting trolled. But some people want to lay the blame for that at the feet of Anita Sarkeesian. And if you want to think that one person was just able to shout loudly enough to terrify everyone in the gaming industry, that's your bag. You have the right to believe that. But if you're interested in facts, follow me along. What actually happened is that the opinion gatekeepers, the people who make the decisions about what gets discussed and what doesn't in gaming, decided to adopt Sarkeesian's particular form of feminism precisely because it was a caricature. It was something they believed that feminism was. And most of the people that made these decisions were male, who just based on their clearly minimal understanding of the depth and breadth of feminism, they bought into the caricature, the idea that, well, no woman's going to like video games just as they are. All women hate games. So we'll show what great people we are by, giving space, giving time to this particular form of feminism and no other form of feminism, because that stuff scares us. It is completely unnatural that the only form of women's advocacy that you see in gaming is of that caricature type. And don't take my word for the fact that it's a caricature. The New York Times, Michelle Goldberg, she's an extremely left-wing columnist. That didn't happen because anybody has great love for Anita Sarkeesian. That happened because gatekeepers in various industries have the instinctual urge to contain any potential threat to their dominance. And, Anita Sarkeesian's particular form of very sex-negative feminism served people well because it was very much in the Marxist sphere of thought. It very much was sort of a primer to certain ideas that I'm sure you're seeing more and more and more of. Some of these Marxist rallying cries of Game Workers Unite and stuff like that people of color are a class instead of individuals, that, making a character of color at all nuanced or complicated is problematic because it's racist somehow. There was a reason they grokked onto Tropes versus Women and absolutely nothing else. And the fact that Tropes versus Women didn't usher in an era of healthy disagreement about the role of women in video games. It just became, well, whatever Tropes versus Women says, we are just going to parrot and we're not going to have any other discussion on it. Nope. That's a sign of gatekeeping. And, gatekeeping is a real phenomenon. I found the Urban Dictionary definition just to kind of have a chuckle about it. But you'll see, it's gatekeeping. When someone takes it upon themselves to decide who does or does not have access or rights to a community or identity. And the people who are gatekeeping who does or does not have access or rights to the gaming community are overwhelmingly male and overwhelmingly white, and there is no way around it. So the problem with that is when it's overwhelmingly male and it's overwhelmingly white, they're only going to let in minority voices and female voices who perpetuate their grip on things, because they're not just male, they're not just white, they also have an intensely authoritarian slant, and that's the important thing. It's not like, oh, white men are automatically the devil, but no, an authoritarian white man is going to keep things just perfect thanks for people like them. And unfortunately, there's a lot of that in the games press and the games community. And so only women with the right opinions are given access or a platform within this debate. Now, here are some of the things based on this very, very staunchly, it's called Mama Demics. It's written by a black woman, but This is what killed me. This is some example of gatekeeping patriarchy. And don't freak out about the word, okay? I'm talking about historical patriarchy. But look at how closely it lines up to the type of feminism that is allowable in gaming today. Okay, I'll show you the website. I'm not going to read on, okay, because this is only the relevant stuff. So when you teach your daughters that they must be quiet and polite because it's more ladylike, you are gatekeeping patriarchy. If you find yourself shaming your daughter because she is wearing a short pair of shorts, you are gatekeeping patriarchy. When you expect your daughter to remain a virgin but purchase condoms for your son, you are, say it with me now, gatekeeping patriarchy. And the thing that's interesting in the next paragraph, they talk about tone policing. And do you find yourself telling marginalized people that they need to be careful with how they speak? Are you uncomfortable with the use of profanity during heated exchanges? Do you think women should be less emotional when we talk about our experiences in order to be seen as credible? All these are signs of gatekeeping. All these are things that the games press does. Remember the whole thing about all these gamers were entitled because they were pissed as shit about Mass Effect 3? It's bad language, it's so mean, over and over and over again. The fact that people don't have a right to be angry. These are all indications of strong gatekeeping. And I'm not saying this. People who do left-wing blogs who care very much about this stuff are saying this. And the problem is that even though they think they're helping women and minorities, they're actually not, because they're practicing patriarchal gatekeeping, which means unless women are weepy and perfect victims instead of someone like me who's kind of over the top and loud, well, women like me are not going to get in. Women like Anita Sarkeesian, who plays the victim well, they are going to get in. And yeah, I know, some women in gaming who have a platform, they curse, they tell off guys all the time. But let's face it, they've already been vetted as the right kind of victim. Right? You must be a victim to have a say. Unless you are prepared to wrap yourself in a victim identity, you do not have the access to the halls of power to be one of the thought leaders in gaming surrounding gender or race. That's gatekeeping. That is... Patriarchal gatekeeping isn't quite the word. It is status quo gatekeeping. It is wanting to keep things the same. That is a much better, broader term. Because one of the things they're gatekeeping is that tone policing thing. That, gamers are swearing. Therefore, no, you are far too hostile. You have to be reasonable. And that is a problem. That is a problem. I feel strongly that's a problem, because when people are pissed off, they get angry, and they may not say things in the nicest way. And if you want to learn the truth of the matter, you have to have the patience to get through that and talk to them anyway. Now, that doesn't mean you take abuse, but you don't dismiss their point of view just because they're rude. That's the difference. And that's the thing a lot of people don't quite see the nuance of. There is nothing wrong with saying to somebody, look, can you just take it down a notch, because I really want to hear what you have to say, and I'm having trouble understanding through all the swearing and the anger and all that stuff, and block just because you swore. What is the difference? The difference is that in the first example, somebody really wanted to know what the person was saying and really saw the anger as valid. And too often in gaming, the story stops being, do the angry people have a point? And it starts being, well, are the angry people angry in the right way? And there's no part of that in gaming, because gaming's usually about skill and merit. And there have to be some ground rules. Absolutely. Like, you should be able to make your point without swearing. And it's telling when all somebody has is swears. But too often, people with a valid viewpoint, people with something to say that is important, get shut out of the conversation in gaming because someone tone polices, because someone just doesn't like the way they said it. And we see this over and over and over and over and over again with the games press shaming gamers based on not the merit of their argument, but the style with which they communicate. That is a mark of gatekeeping. That is a mark of authoritarian status quo gatekeeping. And it only benefits the people who are currently in power. Now, what does this mean big picture? It means that if historical precedents are accurate, that the people claiming that they're pro-feminist and pro-union and pro-this and pro-that, there are some people who very well may be. They're not gatekeepers. The people who decide who gets access to power, they are not in fact pro-woman. They are not in fact pro-minority, pro-trans rights, pro-LGBTQ rights. They are pro-status quo, meaning they stay in power and everybody else has to beg for scraps. That, at the end of the day, is all they care about, and every decision they make is in service to that, not a greater sense of right and wrong. Now, again, Anita Sarkeesian could not have become the dominant voice of video game feminism with no one else, not a single person who will not attack her as a person, but criticize the merits of her arguments and offer another view that is actually less esoteric and more in keeping with historically what has worked, what the markers have been. They're not giving people with those legitimate criticisms a platform. They're muzzling people like me. They're stifling us. They're deliberately blacklisting us. They will not give us the time of day. And the truth is that Tropes versus Women could have been a very, very productive start of a lively and ongoing and useful debate. Instead, it just became another tool in the gatekeeper's playbook to keep things as status quo as possible. Because one of the things about controlling women's sexuality, which was a big part of Dworkin and a big part of Sarkeesian's push, every time a woman is in a state of undress, it's somehow demeaning. Same way the Dworkin thing came up, all sex for women, all sexualized depictions of women are inherently degrading. That's what Tropes versus Women pushes. That is undeniable. That means that gaming will remain a place where women are expected to know our place, not know our power. And that means that these male gatekeepers, the male gatekeepers won't even change. We won't even get new and better male gatekeepers. No, there's nowhere for a lot of these guys in the games press to go. So all they can do is hang on to their jobs. There's no upward track for them. They are in that job until they retire. And that's why they're so threatened by anyone who may challenge or question their decisions. So that's what I was talking about. If you want to keep cursing and swearing at me about Anita Sarkeesian, about how terrible she is, and no, she's totally acting alone and she just has everyone scared, as if a single person could do that on their own, that's absurd. But if you want to believe that, go ahead and believe it. You're wrong, but you have the right to your opinion. But I hope everybody else enjoyed this brief look at how gatekeeping works and how the games press currently has all the markers of authoritarian gatekeepers. Help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, because the authoritarian gatekeepers at YouTube might demonetize this video. Thanks for watching.